Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's time once again for Closing the Wealth Gap. The one show, maybe the only show that shows you how to close the wealth gap in your own life with the man who's done it for many, our wealth coach himself, Tyrone French. Hey, Tyrone.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Closing the Wealth Gap. I'm your host, Tyrone French. Thank you for tuning in. And if you value this content, I'd like for you to go to closingthewealthgap.net, hit that follow button. And we definitely appreciate it. Also, if you're interested in our wealth club, just go to tyronefrench.coach. There's a lot of content in there. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of free content on there. You can get a world-class financial plan that you can put together in about 5 minutes from a company that I use called Saveology. You probably never heard of Saveology, but I can guarantee you pretty soon it's going to be a household name as far as people getting themselves together financially. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in my announcer and good friend, Mr. Paul Roberts. Paul, how you doing, buddy?
Oh, you got me sick last time. I was so sick after the show because you got my head spinning. You got me worried about the future, and then I come down with a cold this week. So I'm blaming you.
Oh, man.
I'm blaming you.
Well, I tell you what, I'll take the blame because the last episode, it was pretty heavy, you know, and we talked about some things that are coming. And the analogy that I want to use, that I want people to understand, is that we're on the road to the golden age. You know, you have the ice age.
Yeah.
You know, so, and I know you're a historian. We have different ages. Even the Bible talks about different ages. Yeah. Well, we're on the road to the golden age. I believe.
I like that because too many of us fear we're on the road to Armageddon. We're on the road to ruin and destruction and falling apart. And that's the common theme that runs through the media, left, right, and center. You know, our better days are behind us.
But that's just it. Even when people read the Bible and they think that these are end of days, even the Bible doesn't say these are end of days. It's the end of an age.
Yeah, right.
It's the end of the age. It's not the end of the world. There's going to be, even the Bible says there's going to be a new heaven and new earth. And it talks about a mentality, a mindset. So again, we go from age to age to age. So we went to an age of fiat currency where our money was backed by nothing. It used to be a time it was backed by gold.
Yeah.
Something physical, something tangible.
Right.
And then we went off that standard and they took the feathers off the printing press and they started printing money into infinity. And it's gotten to the point right now where people are starting to lose faith in the currency. And that was, again, it was all by design, Paul.
That's what upsets me because I think that it's an unintended consequence. Well, we need to pay for the Vietnam War or whatever else we need. We need deficit spending, so we can't have enough gold on hand to print this much money. Let's get off the gold standard. We'll just print money all day long. And it's backed by the U.S. government. It's good. People, it's no problem. And then all of a sudden it went from, $1 trillion under Ronald Reagan or whatever it was. And then it's $5 trillion and $10 trillion and $20 trillion, whatever it is now, $30 trillion. This debt just keeps.
Well, let me tell you though, Ronald Reagan commissioned, it's called the Gold Commission. It was formed in 1981-82 by the Reagan administration. And what they did was they did a study based on what will happen as far as what are the conditions that need to be in place in order for people to start losing faith in the reserve currency for us to go back onto the gold standard. Mm-hmm. And like I said, there were two reports. There was a majority report and a minority report. Mm-hmm. And it was Congressman Ron Paul that headed up the minority report, which was saying, hey, look, right now, just do nothing. And just continue to print money because eventually that's what's going to get us back onto the gold standard. And in my humble opinion, I see the writing on the wall because you cannot stabilize prices with fiat currency. We call it inflation, but you can't. It's impossible to stabilize prices using a fiat currency. The only way that you can do that is by having something tangible, which is gold and silver.
And you always use that term fiat like everybody does in the world that you're in. Fiat just is a Latin word. I studied Latin. I'm a good Irish Catholic. It just means made up. Just means made. Fiat.
Yes.
A fiat is something that's made, done. That's it. So it means somebody manufactured this currency. It wasn't They could call it anything. We could be trading chicken bones, whatever it is, whatever they decide. This is the medium of exchange. You said something. You made me read all this stuff before the show here today. One of which is an article, Janet Yellen, first Treasury Secretary, I believe, ever to a female Treasury Secretary, is going to sign her name on what I would call money, but she even called it
Currency.
yeah.
She called it currency. And in the article that I sent you, they specifically call the money or the currency, the bills, banknotes.
Banknotes. A note. Here's a little note, like a promissory note. Take this.
Yes.
If you ever want it back, I'll redeem it for you. It's just an IOU.
It's an IOU for debt.
That's not
And
what I was brought up.
Every dollar in circulation is an IOU for debt that's earning interest.
And if
now wrap that around your brain for a second.
And maybe it's the cold medicines I'm on, but that just makes me foggier here. So that means the federal government is writing IOUs all over the world to us, to the other companies, other countries, and everything else here. Eventually, don't those IOUs come due? Isn't there some point, which is what happened in the digital currency world? We had the collapse of FTX, which was a big exchange, kind of like a bank, where you could go, not really a bank, but you could hold your stuff there, or you could, an exchange where you could buy and trade digital currencies, which were very difficult to buy and trade. It's a little series of algorithms that you got to put on a disk, and you can't lose that disk or you've lost the currency, just like losing the piece of paper. So they made it easier to trade this stuff. And what it did is, apparently, everybody's trying to sort this thing out. When you gave them money, here, I want to put my digital currency in it, they didn't put it in the bank, their bank. They started gambling with it. They started speculating with it, and they lost a lot of it.
They didn't do anything differently than
the bank,
than look at corporations and pension funds.
But they didn't have any regulations, or they didn't have to keep a certain reserve around because they're unregulated. So they gambled it all, and they lost a lot of it. And then on top of this whole thing, somebody came forward, I think one of their competitors, and said, I don't trust this. They've got the money anymore. And it started a run on the bank. And in fact, everybody wanted their money back. And that's when they came forward and said, we haven't got it all. Sorry. I know you all thought we were holding it for you, but we were gambling it. We were loaning it out. We were doing things just like banks do. And we didn't have a reserve on hand, and we can't back it up. And so all that's gone, and everybody's pissed off and mad, and I lost all my money and my digital currency. It's this funny money situation. As long as we think it's sound, we feel safe. Federal government's behind it. The banks got it. FTX had it. Good. I'm safe. But when we find out what they're doing with it, or that it is not all sitting in a little vault with our name on it, the whole world panics. And you're talking about physical assets, going back to the idea of holding stuff. If
everybody decided to take all of their money out of the bank today, the banking system would collapse.
Yes, as it did in the 20s, right? Everybody ran to the bank, started these bank runs. And
so my point is, again, these cycles happen over and over and over again. It's just people tend to forget.
Like the 20s, that was a long time ago. They
weren't alive during that time, right. Or maybe they heard about, let's say they're a historian or something. They study history, they study trends, and they see the patterns. But 9 times out of 10, most people they're not historians. They're not studying finance.
It's safe.
And so the cycle repeats itself over and over and over again.
Let me give you real quickly one interesting story. I live in Orange County. A lot of Vietnamese in Orange County. I've done business with some of them through the years. And one of them told me this story. We were middle class, upper middle class. My dad was a doctor, lawyer. Communists came in, took everything, seized the banks, drove us into the fields. And the only way we got out, took everything, our house, our money, everything here. We had gold hidden. And we used the gold to bribe the guards, to get across the border, to get to America. Without that gold, we'd still be there, dying, struggling. Gold, something tangible, was what got them out.
Exactly.
And to this day, I'm told in the Vietnamese community, most of them just bury gold in their backyard or in their mattress or whatever. They still don't trust the bank. Yeah, the banks were supposed to be safe in South Vietnam and Cambodia and all this stuff. They weren't safe back then. Now, I'm not trying to so down on the banks. My wife worked for a bank for many years. I got my money in a bank. We've got all sorts of banking rules and regulations and stuff, so we don't have this kind of scares
No,
anymore here.
we're not bashing the banks. We're just letting people know exactly these are the rules that you're playing with. I mean, this is how everything is set up. And so I'll give you another example. Let's say you took $1 and buried it in your backyard in 1966, and you took a 1 ounce gold coin, a 1 ounce silver coin, and you buried it in your backyard in 1966, and you decide to pull it out today. Well, that dollar would not be worth what it was in 1966. It wouldn't have the same buying power, but that 1 ounce silver coin would have maintained its purchasing power. And see, that's the reality. Yeah, you gave an analogy of somebody burying gold and having that tangible asset, but it's the same analogy as somebody sticking their money in the mattress and leaving it there for 20 or 30 years.
Right.
Well, that money was being, even though you thought it was safe, it was being confiscated by the virtue of you just putting it in the mattress versus having those same dollars, fiat dollars that you exchange for something tangible, sitting in. We call it sound money. I call it sound money and sound money is nothing but a term for gold and silver. And you put it in something sound, something tangible, and 20 years later, it still maintained its purchasing power.
Right. So you call it the golden age. We're here to talk about how you got me scared. You got me thinking maybe I should have some gold and silver. But you made me watch a video. We're going to reference it in the thing here. And I laugh because that would be me probably. Where a guy.
What I want people to do is go to soundmoney.biz.
Okay.
Soundmoney.biz. That's BIZ.
Right.
And it's a video on there, and basically it gives an analogy of this guy. He has his gold coin or a silver bar, 10-ounce bar of silver, and a Hershey's chocolate bar. And he gave people the choice. Which one would you want? Which one do you want? Do you want the chocolate bar or do you want the silver bar? And most people, to my dismay, when I first saw that video, they chose the chocolate bar.
Because one guy says, I can eat it. I can do it. And the guy, when he hands him the chocolate bar, he says, yeah, why would you want a silver bar? And the guy says, exactly. What am I going to do with that?
And same video, same scenario, had a 1 ounce gold coin.
Yeah.
And he was going to give the coin away for face value. He's asking $25 for it.
Right.
But when he was trying to give that coin away for $25, which nobody would take, the same day he went to a coin dealer and traded that coin in for around $1,600. He was only asking for $25. So again, I want you guys to check out that video. Just go to soundmoney.biz. It's only a couple minutes long, but I guarantee it'll blow your mind.
Mind-blowing. Blew my mind. So I wonder, you say the gold age, we're entering the golden age. You don't mean that just like a wonderful period where everybody prospers. It really is gold. We're going to have to get back to tangible assets, sound money, real stuff. Is it just gold and silver, or will we be trading nickel and palladium and titanium?
No. The thing is, you want something. It's going to be gold and silver because you want something that's predictable. You want something that's steady. See, the only way, and we're talking about inflation, that solves that problem. The only way that you can stabilize those prices is by going back to sound money, which is gold and silver. That's the why. What we want to address today is the how.
Yes, exactly.
How do you get this done? How do you make it happen?
Because as those videos show, and I'm no different, if you handed me the gold coin, I would say, what the heck am I going to do with that? If you handle me the silver bar, whatever it's worth, do I stick it in my pocket? Do I stick it in a safety deposit box? Do I stick it in my drawer? How do I exchange it someday? How do I get my money back out of it other than going to a coin shop somewhere? And I don't know where there is a coin shop around.
Well, people want, I mean, again, you can Google in your area as far as coin dealerships, and they'll pop up all over the place. And in my opinion, those are the new banks. Those are the banks of the 21st century, because you can literally walk into a coin dealership with your precious metals. And matter of fact, I'll give you an example. I was in there purchasing some capsules for some of my coins. I wanted to encapsulate my coins.
Right.
And again, there was a gentleman in there, Korean descent. and he had a ton of silver. Just and they were in there just counting, and it got my attention because not only did he had bars, he had coins, and at the end of that process, they asked him two questions: do you want cash or do you want a check? And he took the cash.
Wow.
So I'm not. Maybe he had a deal. I don't know. I didn't know the gentleman. I didn't. Maybe he had a deal going on or whatever it was. But he had the reserve to get the cash to take advantage of that opportunity that was probably presented to him. So
And I
again,
don't,
that's why I reference these coin dealers as banks of the 21st century. That a lot of people don't know that's a resource that's out there.
are you talking about Bitcoin? You said Bitcoin, or are you talking about coin dealers?
No, coin dealers.
Yeah.
Say
Yeah.
coin dealers.
Right. I think
Yeah,
you said Bitcoin.
you can Google coin dealer in your area, and they'll pop up.
So today's topic in the time remaining is how do I own gold and silver? And I'll give you three choices. Do I go buy a bar and then I'm afraid I'm going to lose it? Somebody's going to steal it? Or do I buy it in coin value? Now it has some maybe collectible value to it too. Or do I buy certificates, shares, all sorts of other crazy things I've seen through the years?
Again, and this is my belief and my opinion. What you want to do is stay away from the certificates. And again, this is my opinion as far as what I do. Because again, if I'm getting away from fiat currency, if I'm getting away from paper, then why would I turn around and invest in certificates where they can do the same thing, sell more certificates than the actual physical gold that they have, to back those certificates?
Yeah.
So what I do is I use a membership, and with my membership, I have a wallet. It's called a Sound Money wallet, and all I have to do is just transfer money from my financial institution to my dealer. And case in point, I also have a precious metal IRA,
Huh.
and I use this same dealer. I use the same dealer to buy my precious metals for my IRA. And why is that important, Paul? Because a lot of people have IRAs.
Yeah.
They have IRA, but again, they're investing. They're using a fiat currency for their IRAs. And so, yeah, you're getting a certain return on your money, but you're also being charged a fee for that. But also, there's a hidden tax just based on inflation because the money is not going to buy as much. And you're talking about holding this money for 10, 20, 30 years. To solve that problem, I just decided to use a precious metals IRA. And so I buy my metals. My metals are stored. Because it began with an IRA. I don't take ownership of those metals. But let me tell you what the caveat is. I can literally use my precious metals IRA as a bank because I can loan money to individuals or non-qualified individuals
That's what you
from
said.
my IRA,
Yeah.
and I can set the interest rate on that loan with a promissory note.
All right. We're going to jump into that one in a second here, but I just want to make sure I understand. So somewhere there is a vault, there is a place somewhere in this country with your gold in it, and you're using fiat currency bank notes that you've collected from people through the years, and you take those bank notes and you turn them into hard cash.
That's what I do.
Assets.
That's what I do. And let me tell you about my system that I use. It's online. And so I have different accounts within my network to whereas I have a cash account, I have an account for silver, and I have account for gold. And I also, just based on the account that I have, imagine that you have friends and family that's interested in doing this. On that same platform, I can literally transfer money, cash or precious metals, to my family member or anybody that's connected with me on my network with the click of a mouse.
So put a little gold coin in today for Paul, and I'll just go find it here. No, I just, this sounds so simple. I don't know why I don't get it. Maybe because, again, I'm a little foggy today here because of my cold. I just struggle. I'm like everybody in those videos that you showed me. If you walked up with a Hershey bar or a bar of gold, I'd probably take the Hershey bar because I wouldn't know what to do with the bar of gold. I wouldn't know what it's worth. I wouldn't know how to
Right.
cash it in. I wouldn't know where to store it. I wouldn't know what to do with it. I don't know anybody that owns a bar of gold. You're the only guy I know in the world that owns a bar of gold. None of my family, friends own bars of gold anywhere. So I don't have that experience where now I will say this within the Vietnamese and Asian and Korean and Chinese community. I don't know why. I guess because they've suffered through economic collapses in these countries. They've suffered through corrupt governments. They only trust gold and silver.
Well, again, let me add something to what you said, because you put a question to me, and I kind of started talking about something else. But my preferred way of purchasing precious metals are through coins, and I like uh, American Eagles. And the reason being is because they're backed by the United States government, and the weight is determined by the United States government and is solidified by the government. So when a dealer receives one of those American Eagles, again, it's good as gold.
Good as gold.
And
that
so
whole
it's
phrase.
not even questioned.
We used to have that phrase, good as gold, from the Old West. Oh, that's as good. They'd bite the gold. That one, I'll take that one. I don't know about all these other banknotes.
Yes. So a lot of times if you're buying bars, sometimes the bar could be suspect because the top of it could be silver, but the core could be something else.
Yeah, you don't know.
And you don't know. So what they'll do is, and you take it to a dealer, and what they'll do is they'll drill a hole into it, to check the purity, to make sure that it's solid all the way through. So with coins, again, if you got a bar, you can't divide that bar up. But what I like about coins, it's no different from a dollar, meaning that you can buy, let's say if you can't afford to buy an ounce of gold,
right,
you can always buy a tenth of an ounce of gold. So my point is, you can have 1 ounce of gold, or you can have 10 tenths of an ounce of gold, which is divisible. So now instead of, let's say if you get to the point where you need something where it's going to cost you a half an ounce of gold, but you only got a 1 ounce coin. Just like saying you want to trade something back in the 1800s or the 1700s, and you have a bushel of hay and they got a cow. Right. Well, you can trade the bushel of hay for the cow. Somebody's going to lose out.
Yeah, because there's no established rate of exchange. How many cows do you get for a bushel of hay? I don't know. How many you want?
Well, it was a barter system. And, it used to be a time when salt was traded as currency. Shells were traded as currency.
Yeah, American Indians.
So with precious metals, again, it's fungible. And what I mean by that, a 1 ounce coin is a 1 ounce coin. Right. A tenth of an ounce coin is a tenth of an ounce coin that can be traded.
Now let me ask
again, it's divisible because again, you can divide that 1 ounce with that 1 ounce coin into tenths of an ounce, or in half an ounce, or a quarter of an ounce.
So let me ask you about a coin. People have told me coins, not just because they're divisible in smaller quantities, but the coin itself has a certain collectible value to it. That coin, so you got 3 values to it. The government that printed that coin said you can always bring it back in for whatever it is, it's silver dollar or something. It has, if you just want to give me $1 for that silver, I'll give it back to you. Now it's clearly worth more than that because it's a silver content. So
right. That's when we were on the gold standard. Yes.
But it does have an intrinsic value backed by the government. It does have gold or silver in it that has a certain metal value to it that's worth a heck of a lot more than the coin is. And it may be collectible if it's uncirculated or proof or something. That might have, it has 3 different values that go up and down. The coin, the intrinsic value stamped on the coin by the government, the metal value of the metal inside, and the value of that rare coin that there's only so many of them made and people like to collect them. So
you would be shocked by people that will clean out their garage or cleaning out their attic, and they found some coins that were dated like maybe 1924, 1934, 1954. Let's say they found a Kennedy head that was dated 1964. And they had 10 of these Kennedy heads, and they went to the grocery store and they used them for face value. Well, they lost out because that 1964 Kennedy head will sell for the price based on, if you took it to a coin dealership, they're going to give you the going rate of what the metal content is in that coin.
Exactly.
And if you take it to a collector, they're going to give you, they're going to bid that coin based on, because see, here's the thing. You may have a specific coin, and this coin may not have a specific value to you, but for somebody else, that's the coin that they need to complete their collection.
Or it's something rare. It didn't have the mint mark on it. And you don't know that you've got one of the rare coins. There's only a handful of these mistakes. So it's worth more than the dollar. Right. It's worth more than the gold.
Or you didn't know that, you looked at the coin and you saw that there was a mistake on it. There was the die was cast twice.
Right. Double strike.
And so it showed a mistake on the coin, and you thought, well, this coin can't be valuable because there's a mistake on it. When no, because the mistake is on the coin, it makes it more valuable.
Exactly.
And that's what I love about Miles Standish, because he's an expert based on coin collecting. And that's, again, he's a part of my network.
Right.
I love reading his book about the American Silver Eagle. I mean, it's a fascinating field for me when you do your research and you realize that, sometimes a penny is not just a penny.
No.
A penny can be worth, $10 or $20, or in some instances, $10,000.
Yeah. All right. So you buy this. But the question of the day is, how do I buy this? So I don't know where to go buy gold. I guess I go to a coin shop. I don't know where to hold the gold. Do I put it in a safety deposit box at the bank? Do I put it in my mattress?
That's why I told you I solved that problem, because let's say if you're collecting precious metals just in case of some type of calamity, something would have happened.
Currency's not worth anything. COVID. I only want gold. Yeah.
And you put your money in a safe deposit box. You put those coins in a safe deposit box. You're not going to have access to them.
Oh, because the bank's closed.
Bank's closed. The bank is closed.
All right. So
the way I solved that problem is by my dealer. I use a dealer called 7K Metals.
I was going to say, if we can give a shout out to them, I'm sure there's others out
7K Metals. I've been with them for years. I trust them. I receive a collectible coin from them every single month. I keep that in my inventory. There's an online company that you can stack coins, or you can list that coin online, and there's somebody there that's willing to purchase it. Or, like I said, you can literally just do it the old-fashioned way and walk into a coin dealer, and then they're going to tell you what the coin is worth, and they're going to give you the value based on what the spot price and the premium for that day.
So they hold it for you somewhere. Are they local, or you don't know where they're somewhere?
No. My point is, you have options. You can hold it yourself, or you can set it up to whereas you're using, again, 7K Metals, they have their own vault. And so you can actually opt to let them hold on to your coins. And again, it's called segregated and non-segregated. So you can opt to let them hold on to your coins, meaning that you can have your own segregated coin, whereas it's your coins. And when you want those coins back, you're going to get your coin back, or non-segregated, whereas you gave them a coin and then they gave you a coin back.
Right. It wasn't maybe the same coin, but it was one-for-one exchange. Anyway.
Right. So again, what I do is I use them as my bank. This is me personally. Whereas I have on my screen, I see a cash account. I see how much is precious metals I have for my silver account, and I see what's as far as gold. I can transfer from gold to silver, from silver to gold, or from currency, and I can literally transfer the money from my account and send it right to my bank with the click of a mouse. And I also have a debit card, so I can transfer money from my gold account or my silver account, or from gold to silver to cash, and then send that cash to my debit card and use it just like a regular debit card.
And that seems to overcome the obstacle everybody has in that video. What am I going to do with this hunk of gold, this hunk of silver, whether it's a coin or a bar?
Right.
And not just where do I store it, how do I use it? How do I exchange it?
Right. Is it liquid? How liquid is it?
Yes.
And what I'm telling my viewers is, my listeners, is that it's extremely liquid. And you can, again, and you're not just sitting at your account. Like a lot of people would have 401ks and IRAs.
Right.
And a lot of retirees, they just look at it because they don't want to spend the money.
Right.
Because that's all they have. So they have to be very conservative with it. But when you do that, again, based on inflation, your money is being confiscated because the longer you hold on to it, the less valuable it is.
I'll give you another example. Most of us remember the Great Recession, 2008, 2009, and houses went down, everything went down. Our 401ks, this idea that my wife had a 401k, she worked for a bank, so every dollar she put in, they matched it. Sounds like a good idea. She got $2 now. We'll put in one, you put in one. We're not going to give you any retirement, though. You just save what you want, and we'll match it to encourage you. Sounded like a good deal. Except she had very little control over what that money was invested in. They picked 3 or 4 accounts that they had created an association with and pick one of these. So she picked one. It went down 40, 50% during the Great Recession.
Yes.
Now it can come back. It has come back. But how many years does it take to regain 50% of your wealth? A long time and a pretty steady rate. So
and that's not uncommon. That is not uncommon. I mean, that's almost the norm.
Yeah.
And a lot of those institutions, they're now just starting to have a check mark as far as that you can invest in precious metals.
I was going to ask.
There used to be a time when you didn't. As a matter of fact, it's like I was speaking a foreign language to people when I would tell them I have a precious metal IRA. They couldn't believe it. It's like, well, how do you do that? I've never heard of that.
I never heard of that either. And that was my point, is that if they had offered her that option and she'd put it into gold and silver, unlike the stocks that went way down and then slowly come back up over time, she wouldn't have had that giant drop. It would have had an intrinsic value based on the actual asset, something backing it there. That's the whole idea. We're not used to this idea of something backing our bucks, our investments.
And again, it used to be a time when that was the norm. People, it was like they were used to that idea that this dollar was as good as gold because it was backed by gold. Up until Nixon took us off the gold standard, then it was backed by the full faith of the United States government and people trading with us still being the reserve currency. And so now we're just getting back to whereas all these studies that were generated in the 60s that were saying eventually, this is how we get back onto the gold standard, because you gotta
let it get so bad that everybody's going to want it backed by something again here.
But not that people lose faith in it. It's based on the inflation, Paul.
Right.
Prices are so high, and you can't stabilize those prices. Yeah, the Federal Reserve comes in and they dictate the interest rates, right, to try to curtail inflation. But you'll get to the point where it'll become hyperinflation. And that's where we don't want to be. We don't want to get to the point where things are hyperinflated. And what I mean by that is, let's say you go into the office and a loaf of bread is $5 a loaf, and by the time you get off work, it's $8 a loaf.
Yeah.
And then by the time you buy the bread and get home, then that evening, it's $10 a loaf.
Yeah.
And so what does that do to the currency that you already have? It's being watered down.
Happened
and you
Germany
can't work enough hours. Yeah, as an individual, you can't work enough hours to keep pace with hyperinflation.
No.
Can't do it.
And we're certainly seeing inflation again, which we thought had been tamed and controlled. And suddenly we're seeing that beast rear its head again here. So in the final moments here, you've certainly scared us. You certainly made us think twice. We're still struggling with how to do this. Is it hard?
Again, I don't want to scare anybody, Paul. I want to make people aware that they have options.
Yes.
And just for me, again, I am not an economist, but I run my own economy. And I run my own economy based on what I see fit. There's a lot of people out there talking and saying a lot of things. I don't listen to the majority of people because the majority of people are doing the wrong thing. The numbers will bear that out based on just people look at people retirement accounts and how long they're working and how much money they have in a savings based on a reserve. I chose to use precious metals because for one, it's a hedge against inflation. Two, it maintains its purchasing power. I set up with an IRA to whereas now I can use that same account to issue promissory notes to loan money out at an interest rate, whether it's 10, 15, or 20%, to help people to start their own businesses and to do what I'm doing.
You're a bank. What and can you borrow it yourself? You wanted to buy a house, you wanted to start a fund a business, you can borrow money. Are there
Well, you can. I mean, with an IRA, you can borrow as for a first-time home buyer. You can borrow that money if as far as certain medical things, you can borrow that money. There's certain criteria that you can use. What that's outlined that you can borrow the money.
right?
But again, those things I'm not really interested in because for me, it's just if I can just let people know that they can start their own precious metals IRA just to get out of fiat currency and get into just have something that has value that's going to maintain its purchasing power. Plus, you can set up you can have it as your own bank. And here's another thing that I want to bring up, and I know we only got a few more minutes left.
Yeah.
Dave Ramsey.
Yes.
I got to give a shout out to Dave Ramsey because again, he talks about buying term insurance and investing the difference. And again, I mean, I'm a life insurance agent.
Right.
And so every situation is unique. Every situation is different. Some people probably, it's better for them to have a whole life insurance policy for estate planning.
Right.
For some people, universal life is better. But if you're the working poor or middle class, you have kids, young kids, absolutely, it's best to get a term life insurance policy because you can get more insurance for less money.
Right.
But you don't have that side vehicle just based on that reserve that's associated with those other permanent plans. So you can literally set up your own precious metals account. So now you can literally buy term and invest the difference, and now you're your own bank.
What? You're gonna have to walk us through that one next time here, because I have to go think about that one here.
Well, this is part 2 of this series. We can do a part 3, and we can talk about buying term and investing the difference, and using your own precious metal account as your bank.
I would love to, because I think, like everybody in those videos you made me watch, at Smart Money
Soundmoney.biz.
Soundmoney.biz.
But you're also, I mean, if you want to get into the how of it, I want you to go to soundmoneywallet.us.
Okay.
Soundmoneywallet.us. It's a short video. It explains Sound Money Wallet. It talks about the dealer that I use, which is 7K Metals. It gives an analogy of how you can transfer cash to silver to gold and vice versa, as far as how liquid it is and how it's being stored.
But
great video.
Many of the people listening, they say, I don't have any extra money to put into this, or I don't have good credit, or I don't know how to go online and settle this up, or all these excuses. Is it hard? Is it expensive? Is it just for the wealthy? Is it just for the smart?
All you got to do is go to TyroneFrench.com or TyroneFrench.coach.
That's it.
Reach out to me and let me coach you through this process. It's extremely easy. But Paul, I tell a lot of my clients, what's easy to do is easy not to do.
Yeah, well, I have.
So you just have to have the will and the want to do it. And then once you decide that you want to do this, you got a coach that's going to coach you through the entire process. And I'm telling you, what music to my ears is when I kind of sit back and I wait. I don't care. 99.99% of if I'm in a presentation or something, I just sit back and I'm waiting to hear, wow, I wish I had done this years ago.
I say it today.
I wish I had done this years ago.
I wish I had done this
music to my ears.
I certainly am. I'll say that over and over again. I wish I had heard this show years ago. I wish there was a show like this years ago. Nobody ever talked to me about this. My dad didn't talk to me about this. My friends didn't talk to me about this. My work didn't talk to me about this. Nobody told me any of this stuff here.
And a lot of financial planners, again, no knock against them. But a lot of them, they will tell you, they can tell you what you can do to make money. And they're going to, urge you or send you towards mutual funds or stocks or bond, whatever it is, real estate, whatever. But a lot of them are not telling you how to keep it. They're not telling you how to keep it. And again, they're still talking about fiat currencies.
Right.
And when you're talking about a fiat currency, you're talking about inflation. So you may think that you're safe based on the dollar amount that you projected 500,000 or a million or 3 million. And just based on inflation alone, I mean, you tell that story about your dad, how he thought he was set until he realized, no, that's not enough money just based on inflation.
Exactly.
Wasn't enough.
Exactly.
And so that's the alarm that I'm sounding, letting people know that, hey, look, you can be rich or you can be wealthy. I chose to be wealthy because of the time freedom. You're not worried about money when you're wealthy. You can be extremely rich and cash poor and not have access and still lose everything. That's why a lot of athletes or entertainers, they're rich. But 5 years after they stop playing, or 5 years after their career is over, or even lottery winners, they're broke. So what you want to become is wealthy.
Exactly.
You want to become wealthy.
That's how to close the wealth gap. Thank you for sharing this. I'm still not sure I understand it, but you got me interested. You got me worried. You got me wanting to know more. And now you've given me a way to do it that isn't expensive, that isn't hard, that isn't complicated, that doesn't require super great credit, super great knowledge.
Doesn't require any credit. Any credit. Matter of fact, when you turn in your coins, it doesn't even require an ID. You can literally go to a coin dealer and just, they validate, they verify or authenticate the coin, and then just give you the cash. It's just that liquid.
True exchange, right?
All right. It's a transaction.
It's a transaction.
It's a simple transaction. Yes.
Well, that's what people tuning into this show need to hear, because like listening to this show, this is a simple transaction. They come in, you give them bread. You feed the loaves of bread, and they multiply here. It's an amazing. It is almost a miraculous sound to it.
And what I want people to get is the word becomes flesh. Yeah. Get this word in your system. Get this truth down in your subconscious mind, and then let it germinate, and then start applying this information. Put it to action, and the word becomes flesh.
We'll leave it right there for today. I want to hear more about how to use gold in your financial planning here, gold and silver. Thank you.
We'll do a part 3.
Thank you for sharing this with us today here.
Thank you, Paul.
That's our show for this week. Closing the Wealth Gap. The one show, the only show that shows you how to take control of your financial future. Right here in Orange County's only community radio station, OCTalkRadio.net.